In Jane Austen's 1813 novel Pride and Prejudice, the audience is given a closer look inside society and courting traditions of a patriarchal 19th century England. While most of the men take on their expected roles, Mr. Darcy defies this precept through his actions and behavior, allowing himself to learn from and respect his female counterpart, thus taking on a leading feminist role which contrasts the other dismissive male figures, such as Mr. Collins, within the novel. When compared to Mr. Collins, Mr. Darcy clearly represents feminist ideals within a largely patriarchal society. While Mr. Collins sought Elizabeth's hand in marriage for technical reasons, Darcy proposed out of a developed love and attraction for her, even despite his obvious acknowledgement of her inferior financial and familial status. Collins treats marriage as a business agreement, in which women such as Elizabeth are mere assets of the said transaction. Darcy, on the other hand, has no interest in seeking a wife in order to fit his stereotypical role in society. He only considers a marriage proposal to Elizabeth once he truly loves her. Another polarizing difference in the natures of Mr. Collins and Mr. Darcy is that Collins largely considers a marriage as a reputation booster, whereas Mr. Darcy virtually throws any chance of a good reputation out the window, even when proposing to Elizabeth, in order to keep his sister safe from manipulative suitors. Michael STASIO and KATHRYN DUNCAN, in their journal article, An Evolutionary Approach to Jane Austen, Prehistoric Preferences in Pride and Prejudice, explain how Collins is so fixated on fulfilling his role as a conventionally successful male, that he is willing to marry any one of the Bennet sisters, or any attractive female for that matter. This just goes to show that, unlike Collins, Darcy clearly views women more than just a piece of arm candy. Furthermore, following Elizabeth's refusal to Collins' proposal, he is unable to fathom her answer. Instead, Mr. Collins chalks up Elizabeth's rejection to playing hard to get, and continues to behave in a pompous manner. According to STASIO and Duncan's article, Collins is merely following a typical pattern of male mating behavior. Darcy strays away from this typical pattern and treats women with more seriousness and equality. Unlike Darcy, Collins can't bring himself to take Elizabeth with the same seriousness, solely because she is a woman. Because of her gender and role in society, he is unable to comprehend any reason for refusal to his marriage proposal. Following the rejection to his first proposal, although regretful, Mr. Darcy respects Elizabeth's answer. Later, he even tells Elizabeth that although he would still like to marry her, should her feelings remain the same, one word from her would silence him on the subject forever. The stark contrast between these two highlights the patriarchal tendencies within Collins and therefore, conversely, the feminist characteristics Darcy possesses.
Elizabeth, would you like to accompany me to this very important and intellectual thing that would usually only be inhabited by my male peers?
That is so progressive of you, Mr. Darcy. It is wonderful to see you respect women and consider them equal in intellectual value, especially when the current society ignores and fails to consider the contributions that may be provided by your female counterparts. Unfortunately, I must decline on account of your immense social oddities, one of which included being incredibly rude for the sake of honesty and horribly insulting me.
You have now made me see the errors in my ways. Forgive me. Here is a list of reasons why you should do that in letter form. Please reconsider joining me and accept my proposal of marriage if you don't hate me.
That is beyond my deepest desires. I can hardly wait to engage in deep intellectual conversations with you, but you must use a different nickname for me each day of the week.
While Mr. Collins' role as the antithesis to feminism, which in turn accentuates Darcy's role as a female supporter, provides sufficient enough evidence of Darcy's feminism, his view of Elizabeth as an intellectual and an equal partner is another driving force in highlighting Darcy's role as a feminist. It is within his relationship and interactions with Elizabeth that proves he respects women not only in theory, but actively. Julie Schaffer, in her journal article, Not Subordinate, Empowering Women in the Marriage Plot, provides reasoning for the characterization of Darcy as having a feminist outlook in that he relies on Elizabeth as an equal counterpart, not solely as a virtuous wife whom he can dismiss on the account of the general disregard of women as intelligent and rational members of society. She says how Darcy's ability to learn from the female protagonist equates him and Elizabeth on the same level in which both characters are able to learn from each other. This being said, although Darcy's a man and by 19th century standards would be the one to wear the pants in the relationship, his feminist virtues won't allow him to do so. Instead, Darcy and Elizabeth share equal dynamics within their relationship without him, nor Elizabeth for that matter, having a controlling upper hand over the other. Both characters, especially Elizabeth, are able to call each other out on their flaws and differences while still being able to retain a playful and later intimate relationship. Furthermore, according to Patrick FESSENBECKER's essay, Jane Austen on Love and Pedagogical Power, Elizabeth's intelligence and fiery personality, though seen as red flags to most of the other pursuant characters, is exactly what fascinates and draws Darcy in. He is able to view Elizabeth as a heroine that does not exist as a reward for a man or to be rewarded for her submission to a proposal. Elizabeth, being a strong leading female through her high intellect and headstrong personality, is an attractive prospect to Darcy, whereas to most men, like Mr. Collins, this would be seen as an obstacle and something to be trifled with in the pursuit of finding a submissive wife. It is clear through the witty banter, easy playfulness, and honest remarks they share that Elizabeth exists in Darcy's eyes not as a little something bordering on conceit and impertinence, as Caroline Bingley put it, but as a strong and equal counterpart with more purpose than just to marry and serve her husband. The fashion in which Mr. Darcy, as an upper-class male in high society 19th century England, deviates from the accepted arrogance and entitlement of men at the time, while simultaneously seeing past the female stereotype, supplies the justification for regarding him as an individual holding feminist values. These said values of Mr. Darcy's contribute to the novel's showcasing of him compared to the typical male oppressors at the time, such as Mr. Collins, as well as his innate ability to respect and develop a relationship in which a woman is not confined to the domestic realm, even in marriage.